two, one. Hi, Anna. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So, welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule. You are the absolute definition of a BAM, a badass mom.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you.
so, you have a little one. Tell us about your journey, what's going on, where you are, because you do have quite. I don't even know your whole story, but what I do know, it's very intriguing and it's pretty wild.
um, so her dad and I decided that it would be best for him not to be a part of her life because he was in the military and basically he still had issues because he was in Iraq and he was still seeing a therapist and we just decided like he wasn't in that headspace to be a good father to the baby. So we just decided that an absent I believe this, an absent father is always better than a bad father. So we just decided that. So I was I think around 8 weeks pregnant when we decided to do that, and of course I was scared because like I don't have family here and I didn't know what I was gonna do.
Hold on, so let's back up even more. So the audience, because I know this, but let's tell the audience, you moved here from, and you are now and you are such a strong woman, and you're so independent. Um, and then you had your baby in the middle of COVID, which is even
Right.
more crazy. So reverse a little bit before, like we know these super important details, which just hearing that I think is, amazing. So,
Okay, so I came here in 2014 to take my master's, and I basically ended up staying because I found a job, and I have no family here, so I'm alone. Well, I do have family friends. They're never the same as like family. So when I was deciding about whether or not, because honestly, I was considering terminating the pregnancy just because it was so scary. I I had the pills I was supposed to take. My OBGYN gave them to me and I just had them and they've been sitting. I still have them. I don't know what I'm going to do with
is
them.
that wild?
I'm sorry?
So could you imagine your life without her?
Right now I can't. But honestly, at the time, it was so scary. Like in New York, everything's so expensive. It's not easy. Like maybe if it was another state, like I would have thought it would have been easier. But everything is just so expensive in New York. No, like no matter how much money you make, like you don't think it's ever enough for a baby, especially. So I was seriously considering that, and I didn't even when I so had when I applied for the job I had at the time, I never even asked about like leave policies or whatever, just because like I was never thinking about like pregnancy at the time. In fact, I just finished like an egg freezing cycle.
Oh, wow.
I just finished like an egg freezing cycle, so I still have eggs in storage. Like that's how much I wasn't planning on having a baby at the time, and I was going into a second cycle. So I believe I found out I was pregnant in like September, and I was supposed to be going to a second cycle in November for another harvesting of the egg, so it could be kept. But obviously, I had the baby, and I didn't go through with that anymore.
That is so wild.
Right.
This is like, that's a whole nother, I'm sure, conversation, but just quickly, how does that whole thing work with the harvesting, and is it easily accessible in New York?
No, it's very expensive. It's easily accessible. Yeah, there are a lot of providers. It's just you inject yourself with hormones like for a week and a half, and then they just harvest the eggs and they keep them in storage. They just pick the good eggs basically.
And for how long?
Just for as long as you want them to be kept. You just pay like an annual storage fee.
That's so, and so the other thing for viewers, you're doing this anonymously because we will get into this eventually within this chat, but there's a lot of things that happen at work because you're an attorney at
Right.
a law firm somewhere in New York City, and there's just so many things that happen, and I'll also touch on things that I've been through being in the fitness industry. So for people that are watching, that's why the screen is dark on her side and it's, anonymous, just so she can maintain her privacy and continue her work life, obviously. So you're an attorney and obviously an successful one because you're very independent and you're raising a little girl by yourself. Kudos to you, you're incredible, which is why I wanted to share your story, because I think that a lot of women, I will be more than inspired by you and feel very empowered by this. And if anything, just help uplift and show that anything is possible and that women are so strong.
Right, thank you. I would be happy if anyone out there was inspired by my story or was thinking of having second thoughts about just a pregnancy. I mean, they all say you never get a baby, and I think that's true in my case. I mean, considering I was really supposed to terminate it.
That's crazy. I had no idea. So,
yeah, I still have the pills. I don't know what to do.
That's so wild. Well, I'm happy you didn't, because I can't wait to meet her and our little ones can, be buddies.
Right.
So let's backtrack a little. So the father knows, and you guys have been in touch, or you haven't been?
No, we haven't been in touch. And I told him I wasn't here anymore. I just told him I was elsewhere just to avoid all future ties. Because I just think it wasn't my best judgment, and I was thinking about what was best for the baby. And I just think that's what's best for her.
What about in a few years? Do you think that, if he comes back and says, listen, my head's on right?
I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead.
Okay.
Just because so many things are happening right now.
Yeah, it's been wild. So tell us a little bit about your pregnancy. How was it? How did it treat you? How did you feel throughout the pregnancy, into your labor, delivery, and then the postpartum, which obviously is different for everyone, this whole thing?
So I had to do it alone, obviously. I had to go to all my doctor's appointments alone. I had to do everything alone. And around March, well, my mom was supposed to come, and then the pandemic happened. So around March, when, the quarantine started, I was furloughed from where I was working. And I was home at the time, and I was kind of thankful because at least I wasn't walking around commuting in the city, 8 months pregnant or whatever. And around April, my water broke, and obviously I was alone. I had hired a doula just to help me because it would have been impossible otherwise just to do everything alone. But when my water broke, I had to go to the hospital by myself with a infant carrier, with a car seat by myself, and just in an Uber, and basically just brought myself to the hospital. And I was in labor my water broke, so they wouldn't let me leave. I was in labor for 30 hours. I gave birth normal, but I tore and I had stitches, and basically they discharged me the next day, which was really hard because, again, I don't have anyone.
Would you have rather stayed in the hospital a little longer, or because of COVID? Because it was truly in the midst of COVID.
Right.
And I had Axel a few weeks, or maybe it was a month, just, a few weeks just before you had her, and there was just so much craziness going on, so much unknown in the hospitals. Thankfully, it wasn't as much of a nightmare as they portrayed it to be. So, in my nightmare version of going to the hospital, there's people half dead on stretchers and, sick people everywhere. But it wasn't. I didn't see any other patients. I only saw doctors and nurses, and I was in and out, but obviously it was very different because I had someone helping me.
Right.
So would you have rather stayed there a little longer?
Not really, because I wasn't able to sleep just because it was me and her. And I just felt uneasy because everyone just kept coming in, checking on me and her. And I just couldn't get sleep. So I just decided it would be better for me to go home and, try to adjust to life immediately with a baby rather than stay. But labor was hard because I had to do it with a mask, and pushing was hard because I had to do it with a mask.
Hold on, they didn't do a COVID test on you,
No, they didn't do a COVID test on me.
and so you had to do everything with a mask. That's so.
Yeah.
I remember when I went in, it was like, so I went in 3 times. First time was in the afternoon. Second time was like early evening, and then the third time when I finally, whatever, like was there permanently. They did they did a COVID test as soon as I got there, and then it took a couple hours to come back, but they did one, so I didn't end up having to wear a mask. But it was crazy because I remember I was having contractions, and they, shove it up your nose and down, and I was just like, it was so bad. And I'm thinking, there's not a better way to do this to a pregnant lady. I'm shocked that they had you wear a mask.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a COVID test, so I was wearing a mask. So it made things like immensely harder.
So you gave birth. How was recovery?
That was the hardest part of everything because I was alone.
100%.
Caring for a baby with stitches is no joke. And
how many stitches did you have?
The doctor never told me. I just asked him, did I tear? He was like, yeah, it's not as bad as you think it is. So.
Did you ever look down there?
No, I never did.
Oh my God. I looked when I got home because I was cut all the way through into that damn episiotomy.
Yeah.
And I got the Frida Mom kit.
Right.
And I was literally like, I had to build a sub, which eventually I'll do a video of this, I'm sure, for people, because I had no idea. You have the ice pack, then you have the perineal wipe, then you have the perineal foam, and then you have some spray that you get from the hospital, and then you put it in, and it's like I remember just something was like poking me, and it was a few days after, but I remember it was my stitches, and I remember using a mirror and just being like, because I had such bad bruising. It was just so. Yeah, the recovery was definitely worse, like the worst part.
It was so bad, and especially for me, because I had to do everything for her, and I had stitches, and I had no help, and I still had to do chores, and I still had to feed myself, and I still do everything. So the house was quite a mess for a while, and I also have cats, so I had to take care of the cats too.
That's insane.
So it was so hard, and that was one of the hardest parts because I'd cry, and she was not an easy baby. She would be crying from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. nonstop, and I wouldn't know what was wrong with her. I thought it was colic. I absolutely didn't know what to do, and my mom was so far away, and I just cried with her, and we just cried together.
You're so amazing.
And there were days I wouldn't be able to take a bath, days I wouldn't be able to eat, days I wouldn't even be able to brush my teeth and just pass out from exhaustion.
And you were nursing. Well, I guess we'll get to where you are now, but you were nursing the whole time.
I was until she stopped latching. So I had to I had to pump, and that was hard too because I had to pump every 2 hours to maintain my supply, but then she'd cry, and so I'd have to stop. And then just the whole thing was just so hard.
And how is it now?
Now, so I told you I was furloughed, and then eventually I was let go in June is when I confirmed. So I was trying to look for jobs, and I just started a new job, and it's just such a high volume firm that I know I wouldn't have time to pump. And so before, as soon as I found out I was starting in 2 weeks, I just stopped. So.
And you're okay with it or what?
Sorry?
And how do you feel about it?
I mean, it's sad because weirdly there's some sort of satisfaction seeing your baby drink milk from you, knowing that's what's best for them. But my circumstances just don't permit me to do that. And I need to provide for her, and me working is also for her. It's not for me. It's to provide her shelter and food and everything else she's going to need in the future. So
And how did
you
you
know.
find your, I guess, nanny or whoever who's taking care of her now during the day when you're at work?
It's so hard because I've been through like three different nannies because you're literally at the mercy of your nanny when you're a single mom and you're working because you otherwise like I don't know what else you're gonna do if you don't have a nanny.
Right.
The first
And your
one I
office
had,
doesn't provide any sort of
no,
assistance, help, nothing?
no,
That's
I've
crazy.
never heard of a law office providing assistance for childcare. So, and the nannies, aside from being so expensive, you're at their mercy, and some of them are like fickle minded. So they'll just, they'll leave, and then you're left like scrambling for a replacement to take for someone to take care of your daughter. But that's so hard because I just don't want to leave her with someone the first day.
Right.
I want to be able to see like how she is with the baby and like show her how I want the baby to be taken care of. But sometimes like you're just not given a choice just because like you're a single mom, you're alone, you have to go to work and you can't call out of your job, especially now that it's new. Like I can't keep calling out just because of childcare. So sometimes like I have no choice really. The second nanny I had, she was so old that she couldn't use a nasal aspirator for the baby, and I was just like, I can't just have my baby have her her nose with snot the entire day because she didn't know how to use it. So I had to find another one, and this one now, in fact, just told me earlier today that her old employer wanted her back. So we're still having a discussion about that because it's just so frustrating for me to keep training and just handing the baby to one person after another.
Yeah, and you're in a high demand job. I remember at one point, before all this, you were working crazy hours, like an average work week. I'm sure for a New York lawyer is, I don't know how much.
My old job probably like 60, 70.
Yeah, and then to think now you have a baby, so your time has to be dispersed a little more evenly, and it's just, I don't think that employers are so cognizant of women. This is a real thing. Like, I'm sure you're, even though it might seem like it when it's tough, you're the only one going through this, but I'm sure you're not the only woman who's going through this, and it is a real problem because this is the most natural thing. Why isn't there more help? Why is it so just lonely?
It is very lonely. I don't see my baby during the week.
See,
I leave and she's asleep. I come home and she's sleeping. I only ever get to hold her during the week when I'm working, when she wakes up in the middle of the night to feed her. But I don't even get to interact with her because that's just her eating and going right back to sleep.
Yeah. And what type of schedule is she on now?
She's on like a 7 to 7. It's not strict. She wakes up at 7 usually and goes to bed at 7. She'll wake up at like 1 for a bottle and then again at 4 and go right back to sleep.
What do you think is something that you would share with women? Like the biggest takeaway that you've gotten from this whole thing?
The biggest takeaway would be you would do anything for your baby. And employers are not going to give you any accommodation just because you have a kid. They'll still expect you to work the same hours, still expect you to stay in the office and leave at the same time as your other colleagues who don't have kids will leave. Like, without considering that you have to get home because like you have to replace the nanny, because then it's overtime and now you're just paying for so many hours and basically everything is just going to the nanny now.
It's crazy because I don't remember if I ever mentioned this to you, but being in the fitness industry in New York, when I was 5 months pregnant, I still wasn't showing, but I went to my employer at that time and I told them, out of respect, out of courtesy, hey, I'm pregnant. I'd really like to change the locations because they have a few locations in our area. There's one that I was commuting to,
right,
and I had to be there 5 in the morning or 4:30 or 4:45 or whatever weird time in the morning to be there for my clients. and the commute was an hour, and that's
Mhm.
fine when you're not pregnant or when it's
Right.
not the middle of winter or all these whatever circumstances. So I went to them and I told them, listen, I'm 5 months pregnant. I'd really like to switch locations because it's either an hour commute or a 10-minute commute. Like, can I go to
Right.
the other location? And as soon as I told them that, I stopped getting clients. They didn't give me any more clients.
It's horrible.
And not only that, then when I eventually was transferred to the other location, they basically didn't know how to um, employ me. Like,
Yeah.
they were like, okay, so do you need to be seated? Do we need to give you a desk? And I'm like, I'm not disabled. Like, I'm
Right.
more capable than most of the people you already have working being this pregnant. Like, I'm very
Mhm.
capable. You don't have to treat me like I'm not. So it's
Right.
really interesting how it almost seems like employers don't, and a lot of other women who I know who are successful, independent, they wait as long as they can, which I learned my lesson. I will next time wait as long as I can. And hopefully I won't even be employed. Hopefully I'll have my own business and I won't have to deal with other employers. But they basically wait as long as they can before they tell their employer that they're pregnant, because as soon as you tell them, they just start treating you different. And it's like, this isn't a disability, this isn't a disease, this is the most natural thing that exists on the planet. All species
Right.
do it. I don't know,
In
it's
fact,
really wild. Did you come across that at all?
when I was 7 months pregnant, I applied to like another firm, and out of respect for them, when they called me in for an interview, I did disclose that I was 7 months pregnant, and they just never spoke to me ever again. Not even like a courtesy email saying like we can't accommodate like you taking a leave so soon after getting nothing. Just never heard from them ever again.
It's so crazy that you say that, because I had something happen where one of my old managers, who knows how qualified I was for a position, he moved companies. So he reached out to me, hey, I have this position that you're very qualified for. I'm working. Basically, he was doing all the hiring, and he was
Right.
working right next to the two owners. So he was reaching out to candidates that he knew would be able to fulfill these positions and do well for the company and so on. And we met, talked about it. Mind you, he had no idea I was pregnant, and this is when I was probably 7 months pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So I still was barely showing. I could wear a loose shirt and you wouldn't be able to tell. And we met. He and I just met for coffee, talked about the position. I told him it sounds great. I'd love to be a part of the team. I met up with the owners, and during that interview, and it was an interview, and it wasn't a strict, these are questions. It was just a chit chat, like
Right.
get to know each other. We hit it off. He has kids. The other owner has kids. They're married. A nice environment, be a great workplace. And literally, they just fell off the face of the earth. Like, but I told him I was pregnant. I did tell him I was pregnant as a courtesy, because my husband was like, babe, you have to tell them you're pregnant. Obviously, legally, it's wrong for them to do that, to just neglect and say, oh, what are you talking about? We didn't do that, or, whatever, how they want to say. But it's crazy because the guy reached out to me. He knew I would be able to be a perfect fit for the position. And then they just vanished because they didn't want to hire a pregnant lady.
Right. And they can give all sorts of excuses too. Like, they can find any other reason to give for not hiring you. Even if it was because you were pregnant, they can find another reason.
Well, and I thought it was just so interesting because I know that I would have been hired. Like 100%, I would have definitely been hired if I didn't tell them. Because I could just tell with the interaction and how good the interview or whatever you want to call it was.
Right.
And they reached out to me. Like, I didn't apply for the position.
Right.
So I think that there's a lot of issues with that. And there's one of my friends who works for a big company, and she has 2 little girls. When she started this company, there were, the guys who they started on an even playing field right out of school. Right. And at this point, because of maternity leave, because of this, because of that, she's basically where she was, and the guys that started with her are already up here, and it's like those guys don't offer nearly as much. She's, trilingual. She does all their international stuff, and these guys just make more money because they've been with them and they never had to take maternity leave.
Right.
It's crazy. I don't get it.
That would probably happen to me too, because as much as I'd like to stay and work, I really can't, because literally no one's watching my baby.
Yeah.
I don't come home soon.
Is there a longevity that's put on being an attorney, or you could just? How does it work?
What do you mean?
Basically, like, I was talking with a girl who I know who has a little one who's a little bit older than our little ones.
Right.
And she's in finance. So she said that she can see the life cycle of women in the finance world, especially once they start having kids, basically plateaus by the time they hit 40 or 42 or whatever her number was. I can't remember what she said. But it's like you could continue being an attorney forever, or will you? Do you think you're going to go back home? What do you think?
I have no clue what I'm gonna
Like,
do.
I'm tired.
Just taking it like day by day at a time, because like it's hard enough as it is. Like, I get anxiety just thinking about like what I'm gonna do as she starts growing, because she's growing so fast.
It's amazing how quickly it goes, right?
Right. So I'm just trying to take it a day at a time.
So the healing process, we're going to go back to this. So when do you feel like your vagina was healed back up?
It was a lot longer because I had to move around so much.
And I remember I also had the issue of mega swollen ankles. Like just being
too.
swollen.
Right.
Everything was just swollen.
Mine was like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks swollen.
That's what did you do? Did you do anything that made a drastic change to help it, or you just kind of waited it out?
I just had to like elevate my feet, but like I didn't even have so much time for that, just because I was alone. Like, as much as I would have loved to just lay down and elevate my feet, I couldn't, because the baby, she's up every few hours, and you just have to take care of her. And it being the time of COVID, I didn't want anyone coming in to help me either. So it was literally just me and her, because I was so scared that I was gonna, someone was gonna give her something. So up until I found a job, it was just me and her. And it was so hard. Like, before I started work, I was crying. As soon as I got the job, I was crying because I was going to leave her.
Yeah, I'm sure it was just heart-wrenching.
Right. Especially now that I don't even see her. Like, literally see her 10 days in a month.
That's so crazy to think.
Yeah. It's hard being a mother here and in New York and in this occupation.
So when do you think that you'll be able to have your mom come visit, and do you think she'll be able to bring someone with her? What's going on with that whole situation?
No, it's so hard to bring someone with her because it's just the whole immigration process is complicated. And she's not like a resident here or anything, so she can't even stay that long. Probably just a couple months. And also, I'm scared for her to travel because she's old, and the virus thing. It's just better to wait it out. And plus, she can't even leave because her country prohibits it right now.
It's such a wild time.
Right. And my dad he's also in another country, and he's just been dying to meet the baby because it's his first grandchild, but he's also high risk because he's old, and he also can come, so that's also heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's so tough. You're doing FaceTime? What are you doing with them?
Yeah, we do FaceTime, but it's never enough. Like, the baby's just confused. Like, she feels like she's just looking at, like, a show.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't know what she's looking at, so I don't know if that'll help her recognize them later, or just hearing his voice, but
I'm sure. I think that hearing the voice and that familiarity, when she eventually meets him, she'll be able to put it together.
I hope so.
And what about language? Are you speaking only English with her, or what are you doing? Because I feel like this is a normal thing. Like, you're bilingual or do you speak something else?
I'm bilingual, so the nanny speaks the language I speak, so the nanny talks to her in that language, and I talk to her in English.
Oh, nice. Okay, so that's helpful.
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted to pick like a nanny from where I came from, so you know the cultural difference isn't that wide. And I did try and hire someone from another race, but I felt like we weren't connecting because she wasn't as affectionate. Like literally, the baby was talking to her, and she just wasn't reacting. And like my baby loves talking, like she loves talking, and she was expecting like some interaction, and just literally nothing.
Hmm. Yeah, it's really, I wonder if they're, and where are you finding the helpers?
Just on like Facebook groups, like there are nanny Facebook groups.
Hmm.
Where they post like looking for live-in or live-out job. Because right now, like my nanny, she lives with me, but she has her hours. So just in case there's an emergency, like she can stay. I'm gonna have to pay her overtime because she lives here.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I try to have her end at like 7, 8, which is when I get home.
Yeah, that's so wild that that's how, is that, what, I don't know what the standard procedure is. Is that pretty standard or how does that work?
You for nannies, you can pick someone who's looking for just a live-in position or someone living out. I didn't want someone living out because COVID.
Right.
I don't want them exposed. So I would just rather the nanny just be with the baby and they just spend the entire day together with no exposure.
Right. Well, a girl I know who has one who's a month older than Axel, so maybe a month and a half or 2 months older than yours, she just put hers in daycare.
I can't even imagine putting the baby in daycare right now. I would rather just give my entire salary to the nanny than put my baby in daycare.
Yeah, it's wild because it's really just truly all preferential. Like, she wants to do this, she wants to do that, and what do you do?
I mean, I'm just terrified because like I said, I'm a single mom. If anything happens to her, I'm gonna have to be there in the hospital. That's risking my job. That's risking everything because they're not gonna appreciate you being like gone for so long, especially just starting a new job.
And they're not at all understanding about anything?
I never brought up the baby.
Do they know you have a baby?
They never asked me about the baby, and I never brought it up just because I thought it was going to be such a big factor if they knew I had a newborn. Like a baby that young,
Yeah.
it's going to affect your commitment to the job, at least time-wise.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
You're always going to rush home.
Huh. Yeah, it's weird. I think for females, it's such a different, like, there's just so many other issues that we have to go through that you don't actually understand until you get there, which is also why it's a little wild because, what is it, like 86% of women have babies, and it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And they just expect us to have a baby and do everything else just as well. And that's just like you asking for burnout. I know eventually I'm going to get to a point of burnout because I can't even work out. Like, I love working out. And I'm at that point where I had to give it up because I just don't have the time anymore. Like, where am I going to get the time to work out?
Right.
Literally.
Well, I think that sadly, and the tough part is that it's a trade-off, right? So, and at some point, it's everything. Everything's a trade-off. So, trading off work for being able to spend time with the baby, with the nanny, with juggling everything, because you're wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
Like, you're truly doing everything. And I think that it's just, as much as a workout, like doing a workout would make you, because you were working out for years, like I've met you through the fitness space, like it's been, it gives you energy, it gives you a whole new sense of confidence, it is very rewarding.
It is.
So maybe eventually when because how's her, your baby's schedule? Will she let you work out at some point eventually, maybe?
I mean, the only time I'm ever gonna get to work out, I guess, is noon when I'm in the office, but all the gyms are closed right now, and that's the only way I imagine doing it. Or if when I'm home, I can't because I'd rather spend time with her than work out because I see her so little.
Right.
And the funny thing is, my lower back has been hurting, and I know ab exercises, core exercises are going to help with that because I think this is from like the birth and stuff because I haven't worked out since then. I mean, I tried, but
And you
I
worked
just couldn't
out
find the
basically
time.
right up through the whole pregnancy.
I did, and then I had to stop immediately as soon as I had the baby.
Yeah, of course.
And just my lower back has been hurting, and I just know I need to work out my core and my glutes to strengthen it, but I don't have the time.
I guess it goes back to that. And I see a lot of videos, and I see the baby and the mommy and the baby workouts, right? So you use the baby as a weight, or you prop it next to you, or
Right.
whatever you have to do, because I mean it's tough. Like you're definitely you're just juggling above and beyond.
Right, but there's also like exhaustion from like sleep deprivation because if I'm just waking, I haven't gotten like a decent night's sleep in 4 months. That's how old she is.
Yeah.
So sometimes I wake up at 1 and I can't get back to sleep because I have to go all the way to the kitchen, like warm her bottle and just give it to her. And by the time she's done, like I'm just awake. So at any given night, maybe I get 4-5 hours of interrupted sleep. That's not even like solid
Right.
sleep. Because when she sleeps at 7, I have to catch up on work. Because
so you're doing work at home.
Yeah, because I had to leave the office early because I needed to be home to replace the nanny.
So what's a day look like on a weekday when you go to work?
I wake up. Sometimes she wakes up at 5, and at that point, I'm not going to be able to go back to sleep. So I just try and get ready. If she's up by 5 and refuses to go back to sleep, I have to wait till the nanny's up because I don't want to wake the nanny up at like 5. So
Right.
I have to wait till like a decent time, which is like 7:30. Hand her over to the nanny and get ready. And I won't be home till 7:30. That's the earliest I can make it home. 7:30.
So you're out of the house from
basically 7 to 7:30.
And then when you get home, you basically are just trying to spend time with her.
No, she's asleep.
That's so wild.
She takes a bath at 6 and she's asleep by 7. So when I get home, I'm just basically here, just in case she wakes up. But I'm trying to catch up on like work too. That I left because I had to leave.
And you feel okay? You're able to juggle everything? You're just kind of taking it day by day?
I'm taking it day by day. I know it's bound to catch up because it's exhausting, honestly, and just you not being able to sleep, depletes your energy, and I have mental fog sometimes. Like I can't focus on like the work I'm supposed to be doing, which requires like intense concentration when I'm writing like a legal brief or whatever. Well, and sometimes there are mistakes you make just because you're exhausted and you lack sleep.
100%.
That you otherwise wouldn't have missed or you wouldn't have made if you were just a little bit more well rested.
Well, I think that, and I'm just a little bit ahead of you on this with when it comes to the months, and as you know, this is, it changes, right? So like in the beginning, she was just sleeping so little, and then like it fluctuates day to day, week to week, month to month.
Right.
And after speaking with a few other women who have babies that are just slightly older than where ours are, it's amazing because it's like, that it's hard and that you've been going through something that's like borderline devastation, like borderline, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Right.
And it just seems like it gets easier. And you only realize it gets easier when you look back and you're like, how did I do that? Like that was
I can't
hard.
imagine how I did the first few weeks.
Exactly, right? Like your body was ripped in half.
Right.
And you were swollen, and for me, I was swollen in my diapers, and I'm, ice pads all over my vagina, like, and I think because the reality is, and I mean, it's not, it's my opinion, and it may or may not be other women's opinion as well. Thankfully, I have him, but to some degree, I feel like I don't even need my husband. Like, and it's, it sounds weird and it sounds bad, but like as the female, like this is our role. We know how to do this, and this is just it's maternal. Like it's instincts. It comes even when because I never felt like I was a maternal, one of these ladies, woman, whatever, who wants to have babies. I never was that person. But as soon as she was like, it just snapped, and it's come easily. Like obviously it's tough, but sometimes I feel like he just makes it more challenging.
Right, but I would have appreciated someone to help me with the crib.
100%.
Like the crib upstairs by myself after not working out for like 5 months, and I was like, God, this shit is heavy. Like it would be way easier because like I'm on a third floor walk up. And I was carrying like a goddamn crib, and I was like, this would have been fucking easier had I been fucking working out. And now I'm just so weak and dragging this fucking crib up the stairs by myself.
Well, it sounds like you're getting some sort of workout, and you're on a walk up at least, and you gotta, schlep the baby around here and there.
Yeah. But I mean, I would have appreciated a husband at that point in time, like, he helped me fucking bring the crib up or
do something.
Like, assemble a car seat. Like, I'm so bad at like assembling things that I like need to hire someone just to do them for me because I can't figure shit out. It took me forever for the stroller just to assemble it.
It's so funny you say that because I had the same issue with the stroller that we got. And I kept like just trying to jam the wheels in, and I couldn't and I like assembling things. Like I don't have a problem. And then I realized that for whatever reason they gave me the wrong wheels.
Oh.
And I'm like,
justification.
Are you serious? Like I'm like gonna break that thing. And so finally I looked at it and I'm like, it said some word like the Cruise, and I have the Vista. Like it said, and I'm like, are you shitting me? I have been trying to smash these wheels on the wrong stroller this whole time.
At least you have a justification. I just can't. Like, it just took me like almost an entire day just figuring out the goddamn thing. And even now when I'm trying to strap her in, it just takes me forever because I'm like, what is going on with all these straps and having to adjust them each time? Like, it's just so hard. And I have to bring the stroller down and bring the baby down and bring the baby up and bring the stroller up. It's just like so much work.
Mine lives in the Bjorn. Do you use one of those?
No.
Do you know what it is?
The
chest pack.
The carrier?
Yeah.
She doesn't like being in the carrier because she feels so hot and she just gets annoyed and then she cries.
See, I think that we have the opposite. Axel doesn't like she's fine with the stroller, but she much prefers to be here. Even though she's a sweaty little lady, she she has his sweat genes for sure. Like she sweats like a puddle of sweat when she's sleeping. She sweats when she's here. She sweats all the time. But I carried her on this since I don't know, probably 2 weeks in. And I prefer this so much too because then I have my hands.
Right. It's true.
And I like it because it makes me work on this. Otherwise, when you're pushing the stroller, you're here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't always have time for a workout. So I'm going to, carry around this, what is she now, 13-pound baby. And it gets heavy after a while.
Yeah. Mine's 16 now.
Oh, wow.
Right. She's going so fast.
It is insane. It's so wild.
And you know what? She used to sleep with me on my bed, and as soon as I found out I was gonna go to work, I had to move her to like her room, and it was hard for me too. Because now she's like so far away from me, and because I didn't want to wake her up when I would get ready in the morning or like wake her up because of my alarm. So I just wanted her to be in her room. So that was hard though, because I'm used to her being like right beside me.
And I remember you saying that she has What's that? What's going on with her sleep? Because
Right?
she'll only sleep when it's really dark, or what's
She'll only sleep when it's really dark, so her room is like really dark, like blacked out, and she'll only sleep with like white noise. But like right now, she knows when her white noise is on and her room is dark, she knows she's going to sleep. So it's easier for her to like fall asleep.
yeah. But you trained her to do that.
Yeah, because I was like looking at the sleep program called Little Ones that like basically suggested like how you could improve the baby sleep, because she was like really bad. She's a really bad sleeper. She'd only nap for she had this phase where she was napping for 30 minutes at a time, so she'd get exhausted quickly, like in an hour, and nap for 30 minutes, and be up in an hour, and nap in 30 minutes. So I just couldn't get anything done.
It's tough. It's so tough during that time.
Right. I couldn't get anything done at all, because it was just me waiting on her, and like laying with her in an hour, and putting her back to sleep. It was ridiculous. Right now, she's a little bit better.
What are her hours at night now?
She sleeps from like 7 to 1. And then she'll take a bottle, and then she'll go back to sleep and wake up at like 4 or 5, take a bottle, and go back to sleep. And wake up at 7.
That's much better than it was.
Definitely. But I still don't get to sleep till like 10. So basically, I only have 10 to 1, and then 1 to 4. And then at that point, I just can't get back to sleep because like it's just so close to my awake time.
Right. I mean, I've said it more times than I can count, but I mean, you are so amazing. Like,
Thank you.
it's so, because I mean, you see, like,
oh, and by the way, I moved when she was a month old.
Something else to put on your plate. And you did all this by yourself. You moved.
I moved by myself, and I did hire someone to help me, but it was just like one person to help me like pack all stuff in boxes, just because I had to take care of the baby, and I had movers. But it was like such a disaster on the day of, because like she was just crying and crying because she couldn't get her naps because we were moving, like, and she needed her dark room, and she needed her white noise, and there was nowhere to be found because we were moving.
It's a nasty cycle.
So mad.
Well, and hopefully you're locked into this place for a while.
Yeah, hopefully.
And it's better for you?
Hopefully anytime soon. Well, I just had to move to like a bigger place because I said I needed a nanny, and
yeah.
I needed somewhere for her to stay. So.
Well, congrats.
Thanks. For what? For the new place?
Yeah. It's big.
It's not big. It just has more room.
I'm saying a new place is big, not that place is big.
Oh, okay. Moving with a 1 month old, because I had to move when she was a month old, is big.
Yeah, it's serious. It's big. It's serious. It's a big, drastic decision, especially in the middle of COVID.
Right. And I had to apartment hunt with her because I couldn't leave her. So I had to just really pick like the apartments, and I'd ask for like video tours before I'd even schedule like a viewing.
Yeah, tell us about that. I'm like very curious about that process, because having a newborn in the midst of COVID, trying to find an apartment.
I don't know how I did it, honestly. Looking back, I was like, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck I did or how I did it, or I don't know. Because everyone was just like, you're crazy. Like, why would you do that?
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do.
The lease is ending, and I don't want to do it another year.
Yeah.
And they weren't offering like a month-to-month thing, so I had no choice.
Well, you figured it out, and it just seems like as females, as women, you will always figure it out, which is, I think, something that's really important to always keep in mind when you're going through tough shit. Just keep going, and eventually, there'll be a nice, easy patch.
Hopefully. And hopefully she just starts sleeping through the night, because I think everything is going to get better when I start getting like a decent amount of sleep.
I'm sure it will make a world of difference.
Workouts. Like, you don't have the energy to work out if like you're not sleeping.
Totally. No, it's exhausting, but I'm sure that it just gets easier from where we are.
Hopefully, I mean, I don't know when she's supposed to start like sleeping longer hours without feeding, but do you know?
I think someone told me recently that by 6 months they should be sleeping 6 hours, 7 months 7 hours, 8 months 8 hours. So it stays on that cycle. I cannot wait.
She is sleeping 6 hours, but like it's just 7 to 1, and I'm not sleeping 7 to 1.
You're like, she's not on my schedule. That's the problem.
She's not on my schedule, right? She is sleeping 6 hours, which is pretty good for a baby, but she has her own different thing.
Well, I think a lot of women have told me, and obviously it's not something that's like I can't do it. You very well can't do it. But they would say, sleep when the baby sleeps. And it's like, I got shit to do. Like, I can't sleep when the baby sleeps. Or who are you kidding?
Right. And I have so much chores. And like, what are you talking? She sleeps for like an hour. And by the time I'm asleep, she's waking up.
I wonder if you could sleep when you get home, 7 to 1, and then wake up extra early and do your work.
I'm not home till like 7, and now I have to shower and do everything before I can even touch her. And I have to sanitize everything I touched and spray down my shoes and spray down my bag, which is an entire fucking process, I swear to God. And dry my fucking hair because apparently the virus stays in your hair too. Like,
did you? I never heard that.
Yeah, it stays in your hair too. I just don't know how long. But like,
really?
if I know I'm going to be holding my baby in the middle of the night, I definitely have to shower.
I never heard that it stays in your hair. That's insane.
It does.
Well, I did hear that you should be taking vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc. And those are the things that will really help combat it.
Yeah, I've been taking like airborne every day just because like I'm so paranoid. You know, airborne, right? An emergency, just like every fucking day.
I think that those are mostly sugar, but that's okay.
Are
it's
they?
something.
Shit. I need to find something else.
Well, do you know anyone who's gotten it?
No, thank God, no. I have office mates who've been like, I think I had it. And I'm just like, can you just get away from me? Like, what do you mean? I think I had it in January. Like, they're talking about it, like, and I'm like, okay, so get away from me.
Yeah, I think here in New York, it's very accessible to get a test, whatever test is, an antibody test or the other test. But I think that it's a bit more challenging in other states.
Yeah.
And probably other countries.
Right.
But here, it's very easy. I'm so surprised you didn't have one when you were at the hospital.
No, I never had one.
Well,
because they didn't give birth in New York, remember?
Yeah, but even so,
I don't know. They never. My OBGYN told me like they didn't have enough tests at the time or something, and they were just doing it for like really sick people who they thought really had the virus.
That's so crazy. Well, luckily it's all hopefully just uphill from here, like all good stuff.
Hopefully. And you know what else I find crazy is that the OBGYN who you've been seeing sometimes won't be the person who's delivering the baby.
Did you have that happen?
No, it was just fortunate that he was on duty the day I was giving.
Because they do their rotations.
Right. But, I mean, I wouldn't have been comfortable if, like, someone else was delivering the baby other than the person I've been seeing for, like, 9 months.
I had that happen. I have my OB, and I thought she was delivering.
Right.
And a week before, she says, oh, yeah, this so-and-so will be, him or this other guy. And I said, well, I specifically picked a woman because I thought you'd be delivering.
Right.
And she's like, no, it's either this guy or this guy. And I'm like, okay, and at that point, I went 41 weeks. So I was at 40 weeks when she and I had this discussion. And I was just like, there's nothing to say. But I do think that it's, really it put a lot of things in perspective to make me, I don't want to say do my homework, but you just learn a lot because during your first time, for me, I didn't know enough to even ask questions.
I was asking questions just because I was starting to have anxiety. and they even were like, you may have to give birth in a different hospital, which was like a lot further away than where I was supposed to be. I could have walked to the hospital like I wanted to give birth in. And at the time, they designated it as a COVID hospital. They were just like, you might have to give birth in somewhere else. And thank God, like as I was getting closer to my due date, like the governor, I think, gave permission for them to like start labor and delivery again in that hospital.
Luckily.
And I mean, if I had gone to a different hospital, that would have been harder for me to carry like myself,
all your stuff,
car seat, and like my luggage by myself.
Well, and I think that's definitely a topic for another day, is the things that you need for the hospital. Right. Because I've heard some crazy stuff of women are like, yeah, let me bring my straightener and my blowing dryer. And I'm like, who are you? Like, you need a bunch of disposable underwear and a bunch of ice packs and perennial wipes. Like, you're not, like, I brought an old robe, one that I could get blood on that I could just throw away because I don't want to wear clothes. Like,
I didn't even have time to think of, like, fixing myself.
None. Zero.
No one ever talks about, like, how painful labor is. Like, honestly, I think labor was, I mean, it hurt more than the actual pushing.
Definitely.
For sure. Like, I would go over the pushing stage over and over again, but, like, I would not. I'm traumatized, basically. Like, I don't even want to think of giving birth to another kid right now.
But you would do it all over again in a second because it's all worth it.
I don't know, honestly. And plus, I have my eggs. You know, I may have to use them someday. I don't know. I just can't have them sitting there because that's what my friends have been asking me. So, what are you gonna do with your eggs? Like, I don't know what.
You're gonna pay an annual fee. That's what you're gonna do.
Yeah, because I have 5 of them.
It's so interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I can just pick like a sperm donor and just like have a baby by myself.
Well, that's kind of what you did now.
That's true.
Round 2 for you.
A lot less drama.
Definitely that.
I kind of like it though, because like I think just making decisions by myself, you know, has been better without like having someone to discuss it with.
100%. You don't have to consult. You don't have to ask. You can just do, and mom knows best. Simple.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I like it that you see the optimism in it because it's definitely the easiest way to just keep going.
Right.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being so inspirational and brave and strong.
Oh, thanks.
And stay well and be well.
You too.